UPL obviously, and also the agriculture as an industry in general, we do see that there's a lot of disparity in terms of how agriculture as a practice is conducted in different geographies, right? For example, in a in a country like India, you have smaller farm holdings. You probably will need to use a direct to grower retail channel more than working with larger organizations. If you go to North America, if you go to like a country like Brazil, you have sorry, you have much bigger land holdings, and you are also primarily working with larger grower enterprises or grower organizations, right? So from that perspective, maybe you want to kind of shed some light on the variation in business practices across these different regions and the challenges it brings, therefore, when you're trying to standardize, yeah, I mean, whether it could be processes, operations, or even data visualization and aspects around that, right? So can you just throw some light on the complexities and challenges involved in this particular area?
Sure, sure. So, for example, like you rightly pointed, right, there are different nuances of businesses that we do in different regions. So, but primarily, we are a distributor. Is our channel of of sales, and then that's the major share. We have a little bit of retailer sales in terms of retailer units, which is company owned, very small units in India and elsewhere, and then we have direct to growers also, where which is our bigger growers. For example, 25,000 hectares in Brazil is a direct buyer from our products, right? So, uh, what we've noticed is that these nuances will occur. So, for example, in Southeast Asian countries, the farms are much more smaller. So we deal with distributors as our direct customers, and then what we try to do is try to gather data as much as we can within the limitations of data privacy and data sharing norms. How much data can we collect, right? And this becomes very critical for us to shape our marketing strategies. For example, if you're able to uh, understand where our products are going from distributors to retailers and to final to growers, we would be able to do more targeted marketing towards them. And this becomes very, very critical because we are working in terms of getting sell out information across the globe. Some countries are advanced in it, some countries are not. So in a lot of ways, for example, if I talk about standardization of technology across these nuances, right? uh, our major clients are distributors, and then we use our say SAP and CRM systems to interact with them. The moment we start interacting with a different so retailers, for example, or growers for that matter, so we don't directly technologically interact with them. A lot of times what we do is we give them incentives to share that data to us with us. So for example, we have EDI data or grower data information or sell out data information in regions. Now that information is again plugged back into our systems for us to build insights on top of it. So we have incentive programs where if you buy products, so retailers, so we give incentives to distributors anyway to sell our products, which is what creates the pull marketing. But for retailers, we give incentives to them to share that data, and that data is so we are that's why we are saying we are technologically moving towards that, where we have a traceability of our product, of where it is headed from the manufacturing unit to our warehouses and to the distributors, and data stops at the distributor level. Now, if we want to move further from there, what we are trying to do is incentivize retailers through, say, cashbacks or bonus points if they scan the product and let us know, where they have bought that product from. So we will have an end-to-end visibility of the product from the manufacturing unit to the retailer unit, and that way we will be able to utilize that data. And this is a standard practice across the world in various regions, right? So we do it in Southeast Asia, we do it in India. We are trying to do that in forms of shapes in other regions, bigger regions as well. And that kind of brings so you have to follow the patterns of what can be standardized, and there are certain things that we cannot standardize. But if we are able to capture those patterns, I think we can still have a global vision or global way of selling products to our company. And that's where we come into the picture. We are trying to do data driven marketing, we are trying to do data driven sales, so that we target the right customers, we target the right opportunities, and build these insights out of this sellout data, various. So for example, in Brazil we have bigger customers, so we know exactly what they want, and in India we have very fragmented growers, so we are still figuring out what they can want. So but the overall strategy can still be standardized in terms of some great technologies.
Right. Yeah. And if we have, like, other digital leaders in the agri space looking to embark on a journey of digital transformation, especially related to analytics. Now, I mean, there are any number of use cases that you can, try and solve, right? And there are any number of data sources, or there are any number of entities that you'd like to connect with, and then be able to kind of get more information or influence, whether it be the grower community, whether it be the distributor plus retail channel, or your direct go to market initiatives, etc. Right. So from that perspective, how would you segment that in terms of what do you think would be the high priority use cases that the digital leaders should aspire to solve in order of priority.
So I have a very strong comment there, right? So I think uh, we should only solve for problems that exist and not try to fit in solutions to problems, right? And I very strongly believe that. So for us, we are working on a lot of functions with along with a lot of functions we are trying to streamline, but the basis of those starts with identifying what the problems are. If my problem is I'm facing a lot of churn in my market, right? I see that my customers who are my previous customers are no more my customers anymore. They are moving to competitors. So that's a problem statement for me. I want to answer that question. How do I answer that question? And through data and analytics is figuring out what is moving them from our products to the other products, right? So I think for any digital initiative to succeed, while you have to have the foundations in place, which is very important, and you have to set up the foundational, which is a Herculean task in itself. You have to have all the data connected to the same place. You have to have a base layer where all of your data sits together, and you build nuances out of it. You build several data data exit points where people can consume that data out of. But while you build that, you still have to have a face towards what problems you are solving, and build your foundation layer to be able to solve those problems. Now, the general way that the practice that I follow, and I encourage a lot of my folks to follow, is to start with the problem, and then you can start, because a regional problem in what is a problem in Brazil will might not be a problem in India today. So the way to start about is to have a workshop in terms of the sales, with the sales folks, with the regional leaders, and get an understanding of what are their major problems, and then chalk it down in terms of priorities, and what is the biggest bleeding problem, or what is the biggest problem out of those lists, and try to solve those, which are the biggest problems. Now, since we are doing this globally, we tend to think of it which is a scalable model also. So if we identify a problem, we see if this problem is available elsewhere as well, which is my easy wins for me to have with my, say, CXOs who are leading that space, saying, okay, this problem is quickly scalable. I will have to spend enough time on building this solution to this problem for one region, and I can solve it across multiple regions. So that's the criteria that I have, is to identify the problem and see how scalable that is. And a lot of the times the problems are also not scalable, and but then the problem is so big that you still want to solve it for that region. So if you start with the problem statement in mind, I think you are already moving towards the right direction. And obviously, one of the things that's very critical in a digital transformation journey is to have the functional leader buy-in, right? If I'm working for commercial, I need to have my chief commercial officer on board and support for what I'm doing, and he needs to give his blessings to these projects that we are working on, right? Otherwise, if he's not aligned, digital is never going to be a successful. So the people transformation, the leaders transformation, the leaders should be bought into the problem statements that we have, because what might be a regional problem for a small region might not be a global problem that he wants to solve us. And if we spend time solving that problem, it might not augur well, and he will not take digital as an enabler. So having that leadership buy-in and solving for the problems that you want to solve that has big bucks associated with it, as well as which can be globally scaled, is the way to start the digital transformation journey in my mind.
Thanks a lot.